Hello and welcome to this episode of My Golden Life. I'm Lisa Neller, your host, and today our topic is developing joyful and meaningful connections for women. This is actually about friendships. And we're going to have a few takeaways. I have a special guest I'm going to introduce to you in a moment. But we're going to have some takeaways for this talk. And one is to be able to identify the value of friendships with women related to health and longevity. We're going to bust three common myths about friendship for women in midlife. And we're going to explore how building new and deeper women friends is really an inside and outside opportunity. And I think this is a really important topic for us to talk about in midlife and beyond, because our friendships change, our life changes. Sometimes we move, and sometimes we have a big transition in life, and we need to really stay connected to other women because it's good for us, right? So, my friend is Beth Levin. She is a board certified coach with advanced resilience certification. And she's helped thousands of adults achieve their personal and professional goals. However, she did face some life changing transitions, and these included weathering a serious health crisis and then, after recovering, a major relocation. So, both these life changing transitions involved losing and discovering important new friendships. She moved from Oceanside, California, a large beach city, to Kauai, a rural beach paradise, and began her reinvention. I love that word, reinvention. Beth built beautiful new friendships and created a vibrant and mutually supportive community. She is currently working on her new book, The Next 50 Years, developing joyful and meaningful connections in the age of loneliness. And she enjoys ocean water aerobics, yoga, and reading. And I'm trying to remember. Well, first of all, welcome, Beth. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Lisa, such an honor. You're doing great work. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I feel like we met through the yoga community, but we also went to high school at the same high school, did we not?
Yeah, we did. It was a few decades ago, right?
A few decades ago, but it's always fun to connect with people from our past. Um, okay, Beth, give us a little bit more of your story. Tell us how you came to think that this is an important topic for women.
There's the surface answer and then there's the deepest answer. So I'm going to start with the surface answer. The surface answer is I moved to Kauai and I knew that I was going to need friends to feel successful and really feel like this is a place for me since it's so rural and I've been more of a city girl. And I had a strategy that I put together, which was super helpful. And I realized that not everyone has that in their toolbox. As a life coach, I'm really grateful I have a deep toolbox, and it took effort, but it was really powerful. Okay. My one of my closest friends, she lives in California still. She was in a book club and she read a book about friendship for women. And she really did like the book. And we were talking about it, and she's been really supportive and impressed by all the friends and the ways that I've developed them. And so in my head and out of her mouth at the same time was, Beth, you need to write this book. And I knew that that was true. It completely resonated with me. And I decided that was a wonderful journey for me. So I started doing the research and I thought there was a big hole actually in this market. So there's books about friendship for younger people. It's definitely becoming a more important topic. So this whole piece about longevity and that we need relationships to help us stay and feel healthy, especially as we get older, is really important. So that's a little more on the surface level. On the deeper level, when I was in my health crisis, which was quite a transition that I've been through, like a dark night of the soul, I really had to look at this idea of being alone because I felt so alone during this crisis. I had friends who were like, well, do they know what you have? And can they give you a pill? And it really wasn't my journey. And so, I was reading books from Buddhist nuns and all different kind of wise souls about going into this darkness that some of us experience. And so I was very fascinated later about this idea of connection and disconnection. And, you can't find connection if you have this degree of disconnection within yourself. So in my book about the next 50 years and finding joyful and meaningful connections, there's this whole chapter about the spiritual alchemy. And the book really gives you some opportunities, activities for reflection, because once you own that, like your agency, your power to create what you want has just really increased dramatically. So there's basic tools in here, where to meet people, setting up a game plan, there's a roadmap, but there's also this times for the inner outer experience to be able to really say, here's my friendship garden. It's thriving. It supports me. It's mutual. It's beautiful. And I'm here to help you get there.
Amazing. I'm just going to say that for the video portion of this, there's some cutout, and there's also some cutout in the audio too. So let's just keep going and we'll see what happens. But thank you for that background. And I understand why you're writing the book. Why is it particularly relevant for women over 50?
Women over 50, most women have a degree of self-awareness of knowing who they are and who they're not. And half of their life is already behind them. So it's a wonderful time to embrace who we are. In addition, women are outliving men. So many women are married, or they're divorced, or they're going to be a widow. Like my situation, my husband is 18 years older. He has a chronic disease. I mean, the writing's on the wall. Also, many women have families that don't live near them. And we face loss of people, our friends, our family. So these different things happen, this whole phase of life, entering midlife, going through being an older person, those present certain kind of challenges. And as we know with longevity research, that if we have other like-minded women around us and people that support us, then that's going to make a huge difference. So one of the myths that women have is that they're too old. Everyone else organically has this perfect friendship situation around them, and I'm too old. Or they have the myth that they're really in their comfort zone and they're not really satisfied, but they don't really know how to change that. They don't have the tools. Maybe it's rusty from COVID and we've stayed away from people, or maybe they never learned some of these tools, because it is a set of skills and behaviors and also ways to think. So I think those are really, important to think about. And then also, they're ashamed. And there's a myth like, I'm ashamed I don't have as many friends as I would like. And so that comes up for people. And I'm going to tell you a story that made me sad. So over a year ago, I was at a store and I was talking to this woman, and she was really tremendous and excellent at what she did at work. And we talked a bit, and because I'm fascinated about friendships and building friendships, she said she was really lonely. So we chatted and I had a suggestion for her. And her response to me was so sad. She said, I don't really think I want to create more friendships because I don't want to hear people's drama and their negativity. And I thought to myself, I'm not there to change her, but I thought, how unfortunate that you see your friendships or potential friendships as energy drain. I see friendships, good friendships, as a mutual sharing, a mutual support system, a way for us to grow together. So these challenges or old ideas about friendship are not knowing how to go about it. So I have a roadmap to share with folks.
Well, and I think, it depends on personality too. I knew a woman who was older. She moved into a community of what is it called? An independent living community. And she was one of those who moved into the apartment that was far away, and she, stayed by herself, and she didn't want to go to the dining room to meet people. She preferred being alone, actually.
Mhm.
And I think she probably felt the same way, I don't really know her exact reason, but I can see why some people might think along those lines. And it is sad. And, there's consequences to thinking
You
that
know what?
way.
Here's the thing, Lisa. So I have a friend who's 99 years old. She's going to be 100 next month. She still lives alone. She has some kind of glow about her. I just have to say, she's got her health stuff, but she's got so much vitality, and she's an interesting woman, and she has such a positive outlook on life. And she has a lot of love in her life, and she doesn't, what I want to say, disqualify younger people as her friends. And we talked about this, and she said, sometimes you just are around someone that you feel a connection with. And so she met a woman, at her pool that was visiting, and she developed a relationship with her. So I feel like she's a real blessing in my life, and she's really an inspiration to be like that at 99. I think we should all want to be like that.
That's amazing. Dick Van Dyke is 99, and he's still like, I got a lot of things to do. I'm not ready to kick the bucket. So, well, that's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. Your book emphasizes the importance of meaningful connections. So, what are some strategies that you recommend for cultivating these types of friendships?
So I'm going to make a distinction between a meaningful connection and a really deep connection, because you could have a meaningful connection when you're spending time with someone that's on track and aligned with really what you're doing and your values and your purpose. So stepping back into meaning, it's really helpful to know something about your purpose, and it can take some time and reflection as it's shifted. So for many women, raising family, being a good parent, being a good son or daughter, spouse, those things have been important sources of meaning. But as we get older, this can change, right? So I no longer have a one-to-one private practice in coaching. I want to have retreats and help women to develop deeper bonds and friendships. So knowing your values, again, the inner work, knowing your values and really what's important, and then looking at what are some purposes that are in the world that would be a good match for you. So, for example, volunteering at the Humane Society may be something that speaks to you because you love animals, or joining a book club that's already out there. And maybe you can find one of those in an app such as Nextdoor or Meetups. So I like the idea of brainstorming, you know, who you are and where you can bring more of that to the table. So there's so much that needs to still be done in the world, and you have wisdom. So whatever your career was, whatever family wisdom you learned, there's a place to share that. And in doing that, you're going to automatically have meaningful connections because you have a similar investment to a vision that resonates with you.
That makes sense, and I see some groups on Facebook where it's just women, they're local groups, and they are looking for friendships. They're typically over 50. They have either recently moved to the area, or they just decide they want to make new friends. And then they're kind of specific about, well, here's what I like to do. I like to do these certain things, and these are things are important to me. And so I think that's really important too. And I love that you suggest, let's do some inner work. Let's look at our values and see how they align with, what I'm looking to create in my life.
Yeah.
And
I'm
go ahead.
just going to share, one of the activities in my book that I love is so much fun, and I piloted it, is to actually draw your friendship garden and see what comes up. do you put you in the garden? Are you a bystander of your garden? Does your garden have a few weeds in it? When I did it for myself, I was so surprised because a lot of my friends look just like me. And I thought, that's so interesting.
Well, that is cool. A friendship garden. I would not have thought of that. I don't think.
Yeah.
Um, how can women overcome the vulnerability of, or the fear of vulnerability when building new friendships later in life?
I think it's really common, Lisa, that it's the sense of we'll be rejected. And one of the myths is that, people are much more negative in their opinion of us than they really are. And there's been research about this, about a negative bias. And that also is a myth, is that people meet us and, for a new person, we get a fresh start. But if you want greater clarity, in your purpose, deeper and more meaningful spiritual lives, then vulnerability is the pathway, according to Brene Brown, who's the master of vulnerability. So it depends what you want. So if you really want to have that space where someone is more mutually open with you on a deeper level, and you want that too, then it takes risk. And
Yeah.
not everybody has the bandwidth. So I think it's important, Lisa. So you have to think about bandwidth. Bandwidth could be time. So for example, you're working full time. You might still have children at home. Your teenagers are there. You have a disabled husband, whatever the situation. So your bandwidth is going to be smaller than someone who retires to a new area, has lots of time, has lots of financial resources. So thinking about some like real elements in your bandwidth. And not everybody wants the same thing that you want. They want that deeper connection. And it can be scary and challenging if you get out there and you're like, oh, I'd like to spend more time with you. I'd like to get to know you better. And that person doesn't have that same desire. It's almost like dating. So I think along the way, being open to, what your preferred scenario is might not be how it evolves. And then you move on to the next one. So when I first moved here, I love to think about the bumpiness of building deeper connections here and building friends here. So I came here, I was in quarantine for 2 weeks. We were the strictest in Kauai, and I was chomping at the bit to get outside of our house. So we went snorkeling. It was very quiet. There was no one there. There was one woman in the ocean, not a lot of fish that day, but it was beautiful. And we started chatting. So in my head, I go, wonderful, my first new friend. So we shared contact information. I felt like she was really open with me. We had some fun. We're in the water, and I was so excited. So we shared information. I reached out to her, didn't hear back. I tried her again, didn't hear back. I was like, oh, well, I don't know what happened with that. Oh, well, disappointment, unfortunately, but that didn't stop me. I'm like, not going to be here and not try other methods. That was the first day out of quarantine. So I ran into her about a month and a half later at a coffee shop. And I thought to myself, like, okay, well, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. She didn't get the email, whatever. She's been too busy, blah, blah, blah. So I go up to her and I asked her, I said, hey, did you get my email? I called you. And she says, I did. And, I just felt that like, it was like a wall or something. And I'm like, well, I just wanted to double check. And then I went on my way. So that was like one of my first experiences here. And I've had many wonderful other experiences, but it wasn't what I had hoped for. So we just have to get over things being so personal, I think, is a part of it, and put ourselves out there anyways, kind of like dating.
Yeah. And, not everybody does what they say they're going to do. That's just a fact of life. And so I created it was an event, like a meetup event one time, and I had a bunch of women show up, and it was really fun. And the two women that I connected with most, I'm still in touch with them because this was 2 to 3 years ago. I'm still in touch with them, but it's true, like they're both not working. And, I'm building a business and I'm busy. As much as I really love them, I don't have the time to be with them as much as I'd like. And so I tend to reach out less. And it has nothing to do with the way I think of them because I think they're both really lovely people. And interestingly, the two of them were going to get together, and that never panned out. For what reason, I don't really know. But yeah, you do take risk. And sometimes somebody says they're going to do something and they don't do it. So that could be hurtful and confusing and weird, uncomfortable. But like you said, you moved on and you established new friendships, and you've got a lot going on now in that area.
I do. Like I'm like almost near full actually, but it's all wonderful. Um, so this idea about thinking about the feeling you want, like the feeling you're with somebody. So I don't know about you, Lisa, but if someone that I meet is new and they start quickly getting into drama about their life, the things they don't like about their life, and they're really having a pity party, when I first meet them, I'm going to feel drained. I'm a high
Yeah.
empath, and it's not going to draw me to them. So I think these are an important element that we don't often think so much about, like your intuition and what you're feeling after you've had a contact with that person. And did they talk all the time, or were there's clues that you picked up about that person that are important? So who deserves your vulnerability? I think that's really important too, because if someone's a gossip, I mean, I met someone and this is a small island. She started to gossip about someone that I knew and liked. And so for me, that's a red flag. It's like, oh, that's not the person I want to really develop this vulnerability in time. And the other thing is time. It takes time together, face time over time to build that trust, to see that person's consistent, to see how they live their life, their character. So, I wouldn't say rush in. And then you could start with what I call the lower hanging fruit too, in terms of vulnerability, which is talking about more positive things about your life and asking them, what are some accomplishments in your life that you're really happy about so far? What are dreams you might have for the future? And those are more safer topics. And that can, again, take some time until you get to some of the more challenges. I think having a game plan can help tremendously as you're on that track of vulnerability and having more conscious friendships.
Yeah. So, can you discuss the role of technology and social media in friendships for the development of friends of women over 50? And, like, are there any pros and cons in your
Absolutely.
mind?
Absolutely. Social media is not all bad and it's not all good. It is a tool. When I think about social media, there are people that think they have a lot of friends because they know a lot of people and there are a lot of groups in different social media channels. You can do that in the comfort of your own home, in your pajamas, in your shorts with a nicer top on. So you can have what I call pseudo friendships, which are people that people who know things about you, but they're not the person that you're necessarily going to want to call in the middle of the night when you're having a crisis. And those people may not be the first people that that you want to share something wonderful with either. So I'm a strong believer in FaceTime. When we needed it during the pandemic, when we were more required to avoid people or we're afraid of people, social media channels like Zoom, that was a wonderful, wonderful blessing. I like to say that they're tools in your toolbox, social media, but you can be discriminating. You don't have to watch junk TV. You don't have to waste your time in social media channels that don't help you, but it also can be such a big distraction. So I would encourage listeners to really make sure their social media groups, if they're on them, really are still working for them because they might change. So it can be a tool. The downsides are you can be time wasting easily. And so finding methods that work for you to use your social media, but also combining that with a game plan to either meet new people, if that's your desire to improve the numbers, or picking and choosing some quality people to deepen those relationships with.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, there are these groups that focus on local areas where you can meet people, and honestly, if I really wanted to develop some friendships, I would go to some of those events because they have like events that you can attend where you'll meet several women, and you might really connect with one or two of them at those events, which I think would be better than having some kind of a virtual friendship. I don't know. You
But
know.
there. So I want to share two things about this journey in friendship in my world. So one is I started this, I have a website for girlfriends after 50, and I have another group here that I put on Nextdoor to start, which is Kauai Active Women Over 50. And we hit this great milestone of 106 people joined this group. And so this year we're going to do, I started a weekly walk, beach walk.
Mm.
And our vision, so one of the gals who joined, she quickly said, let me help you with this. And I'm like, great. She's like, we need a Facebook group. So she's been on that and we got that going. So what our real vision is that women will feel empowered, though, to create these different activities. Like this person wants to go for a hike and this person wants to go play mini golf. So I see that unfolding this year, but the fact that it's been about a year now and there's that many people in this little teeny island that want to get together and be active has been beautiful. And out of it, for me, I'm grateful, right? I mean, some people have been more regular and opportunities for closer connection, and I get to pick and choose. So that's been huge. And then the other thing is sometimes things just happen organically. So I was at a local retreat. There was a woman there, it was a couple of years ago, and we had this strong sense of like, don't I know you? And we explored, what profession you're in, and did we meet at professional conferences? And we couldn't find that time and place that maybe we met, but it was just like this instant feeling of this depth. And we've remained really close friends. So she comes to visit a couple times a year. She bought a condo here. She lives in another country. But that's such a blessing. So it can happen organically, but it also requires being open at the same time, or it can happen intentionally.
Well, congratulations on the reach and being a leader in that area because not everybody's going to take up that baton. And so you are a huge blessing for those women. So way to go, Beth. I love that.
I have
Let's
so many
just
ideas, and I have so many ideas how people can do this too. So that's a gift that I bring.
Yeah, well, we can talk about that, or if you'd want, we can spend a little bit of time on the neuroscience and what you know about neuroscience, integrative medicine, and longevity, as far as, what does all that have to do with developing friendships?
I think that's really powerful, Lisa. I mean, I love to talk about both, but I think the neuroscience piece is interesting. And so I want to say I was an occupational therapist in one of my careers before I was a coach and trainer. So I've always had deep interest in science. And, there's newer research that they're looking at love, like the feeling of love and being able to quantify how that promotes healing. So we can have experience of love not only with our spouse or our children or our parents, but also with our friends. And I'm going to need to refer to my notes because I don't have memorized the pieces of the actual neurotransmitters, but I want to share that with you. So one of those is oxytocin. Oxytocin is a neurotransmitter that actually is about bonding. So babies and their mothers, this neurotransmitter is stimulated. We also have that in our friendships. So think about hugs. If you touch and hug your friends, again, you can't get that just from watching a screen. And the laughter that we have together. So our brain lights up in these different areas, which are the happy centers. And I would imagine, Lisa, you want to have happiness in your brain, as most of our listeners, hopefully all of our listeners. So all these neurotransmitters, I'll talk about more of them, they form together to help us just to create these kind of bonds. And we're actually wired to be social creatures. Serotonin is another neurotransmitter that gets stimulated when we're around people that we enjoy spending time with. And when we have support and mutual appreciation and we can share successes, then that promotes our relaxation, the serotonin. So we have the dopamine that brings us up, the happy center. We have adrenaline that improves our alertness, our feelings of vitality. So maybe you're feeling a little tired, but as you're around people that have more energy and they're sparking that vitality in you. So we have neuroplasticity. So the more we put ourselves in situations where these brain centers are stimulated, the more those parts of the brain become stronger, versus the more we stay in bed, don't get out of bed, we're on social media. We might get a little bit of it, but why not go for the whole gusto? And then lastly, endorphins. Endorphins are the natural painkillers, and they promote pleasure and relaxation. Did you know one of the best ways to improve your longevity is through singing with other people? There's something about that joint experience and something about singing that's joyful. Found that fascinating. So I hope that answers your question, some things about neuroscience that are related to friendship that also can relate to good brain health and to longevity, and they've been proven.
Well, it makes sense. I saw, if you watched the Blue Zones, the Netflix show on the Blue Zones, they talk about a little bit about the science of that and how being in community and having people around you is good for your brain and good for your health and all of that. So I think it's important that we do continue to develop friendships over time. And as we age, and we will, and there is that loneliness factor. So, keep making friends, and just maybe make that an intention. Um, and then if you need help, you're going to read books like Beth's book that she's working on. So let's talk some more about this book, Beth. Um, it includes personal stories. Are there any stories at this point, or anecdotes that you think will resonate with you or your readers?
Well, one of my inspirational friends, Michelle, is just so unique. And I want to share a little bit about her. So she's in her 50s right now, and her life has been full of service. She devoted her life to working with foster children. At one time, she had 11 in her home, which was it's just crazy thinking about how much energy she put out there. So I want to see one thing too. Anyway, so she and her husband had all these foster children, and she worked at a leadership position at a continuation school. So she had to be really efficient. She had no time for friends, none. She had some family, but no time for friends. So here she is. She comes to Kauai, and during COVID, her and another gal decided that they were going to have a Thursday lunch club and invite women to participate if they wanted to come and create a lunch bunch. So she's had a thriving group. There's over 20 in it now. I'm still an intermittent member versus going every week, but she was so impressive. So even though she had these fears and she had social anxiety and she hadn't had this lifetime of friends, and to me, the icing on the cake is she also has a best friend that she met at a workshop, and they're so alike, but she put herself out there, right? And she brought other women together. Not everybody's a leader, but some people are, and other people can just find ways to participate. But I have seen many inspiring people here. So that's, I think, an important story. And, one thing about Kauai is it's very diverse. People have lower socioeconomic situation, they've lived here forever. and the natives, and then there's people who travel over the world. But here, it seems like you can embrace diversity in a different way than other places. But I think there's still lessons that can be learned from, which I have in my book.
Well, I love Kauai. I've been there once. And I think, you know, talk about longevity. If you got great friends and you've got the ocean and the palm trees, and there's something about Hawaiian air that makes, you know, life really delicious. So that's a blessing. So let's talk about what you're looking for your book. I think you had mentioned that you want to you want some help with research for the book.
Thank you. Yeah, so I want to do qualitative research. So I have questions that I want to ask women, and I'm looking for specific kind of stories that would help inspire other women. You know, it's really wonderful to be able to share yourself and be heard and be seen. So that's one of the opportunities in being a participant in my research. And even my friend Michelle, you know, when I asked if I can talk about her, if I can use her name, you know, she was gracious to allow that. So I really commend women who are willing to share more about their journey in a way to inspire and help other women. So this is an opportunity to do so. And I think it'll be enjoyable and fun as well. And
Okay.
look.
Yeah. So you're looking for people to ask questions to help you with your research. How can they do that? How can they find you to do that?
Yeah, they can email me at lotuslovewellness@gmail.com and tell me that they're interested in participating in research for my book.
Okay, that's
Look in the
Lotus Love.
wellness.
Sorry, say that again. Lotus Love
Lotus Love Wellness
Wellness
@gmail.com.
at gmail.com. This will be in the show notes, uh, folks. So you're going to email Beth at lotuslovewellness@gmail.com if you're interested in being interviewed for her book, and you will potentially be in her book, and then you'll give them a free book for that, right?
Absolutely. And of course, Lisa, we talked about 5 tips for deepening relationships. So have
Yes.
that as well.
Yes. Now, so everybody knows, as of this recording, it is January 20th, 2025. There's a lot going on in the world today. There's a
Yes.
new president being sworn in. It's Martin Luther King Day. Israel may be getting some what were they people that hostages back, you know, like hostages are being released. There's a lot going on today. But Beth is wanting to write this book this year. So if you're listening to this in 2026, it might be a bit too late. So just if you're listening, please reach out to Beth sooner than later. And then she's also offering, say it again, 5 tips or
5 tips for deepening relationships.
5 tips for deepening relationships. So that sounds fascinating, and that will be in the show notes also. So you will email Beth to get that. And what do they need to put in the subject line?
Tips.
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 Tips. Woohoo! That's so easy. Okay.
Book
Anything else?
or both. Book or tips or both.
Is there anywhere else you would like to send people to find more information about you at this point, or anything else you want to say?
I'm going to put that in the notes as well, because I have my Facebook group for women
Okay.
over 50 friends. So that would be one place. And then also
Okay.
my website, which is www.lotuslovewellness.com. So
Okay.
those are 2 great ways to connect with
Yay.
you and learn more, enjoy life.
Yay. Awesome. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add, Beth, before we wrap it up here?
So 2 things. So one, this is just a prototype of my book, which I'm excited about. And I'm grateful. I got to attend a masterclass with a major publisher at HarperCollins. And so she was the one who actually encouraged me to do more research, which I'm doing. I follow directions from wise people.
Uh-huh.
Because I just want to thank you, Lisa. It's been a wonderful opportunity. It's been so fun. And I'm looking forward to following your journey as well. And I'm sure that you are going to help a lot of women and that this is going to be of great interest. So namaste.
Namaste, Beth. Thank you so much for being my guest. This was a lot of fun. I think this is a really important topic, and I know your book is going to be a hit. So, thank you so much for being my guest. And you know what? When the book does come out, we will do this again. All right.
Okay, I love
All
that.
right.
And
Wonderful. All right. Pardon me?
I'll send you one.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm excited for you. This is such a fun journey. Well, everybody, thank you for listening to My Golden Life. Until next time, be well, take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time.